share some information with council that, or my thought process, and hopefully I have support on moving forward with this idea. We went to the legislator and asked for $750,000. I got a phone call going, they're funding a couple other projects. Actually, I think Federal Way is the only one that's getting some funding. But I did get a phone call from Senator Milosha saying I was able to put $150,000 into the budget for capital for your city. And I'm hoping that it stays there. We know that they're now negotiating. So one of my hopes is, if we do get that, to use that money for a feasibility study for the City Hall campus. And that was part of the funding we were asking for, and do a feasibility study, what City Hall campus looks like. And with that, while that's happening as well, is create a committee. I laugh at committee. I'm sorry. We have so many committees. Like, sometimes it's crazy. But a committee of members of our community to come together and have a say of what they think City Hall should look like, how we should proceed with the different City Halls. We will have to do something here. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. Something has to happen here. The air quality is not going to get better. It's only going to get worse. And so, and to be honest with you, if we were to do some of the upgrades that need to be done, it would lower a lot of our expenditures as far as heating and all of that stuff, because of the windows and the heating system that we have and all the repairs that go on the boiler. But, I mean, that's neither here nor there. But that's what I would like to do if we're able to get that funding, is work on a feasibility study for all of City Hall campus and what that looks like and how we're using our buildings and all of that. And meanwhile, put together a committee from the community to talk about, what do you want your City Hall to look like? How do you want to pay for that? Do you want to bond it? Do you want to try to go after grant funding? I mean, what does the community want for their City Hall? So to be able to have that conversation. So we'll see what happens. The other good thing that I got news from, I got a phone call just before session ended from one of our representatives that says, I have an opportunity to put some trail money into the transportation budget. Do you have any trails that need funding? And I said, as a matter of fact, we have 2 shovel ready. And gave her the total amount. They have put in $1.8 million in the transportation budget for our trail to complete 3rd Avenue all the way to Stewart, and to do the trail along Stewart Road that we lost that funding for, that we once upon a time had. So I'm hoping those will stay into the budget, so we'll see. I wanted to share that information. I've been kind of apprehensive to talk about it because I don't want to give it bad blood or anything, but I'm kind of excited. So far, they're not being messed with, but they just started, so we don't know how that's going to end up. So that's what I wanted to talk about as far as what we're going to do here at City Hall. Obviously, we're not going to be able to do anything with this building at this time, but I'm hoping that we do get the funding to do something as far as figuring out what we're going to do, the feasibility study. And I feel like one of the things that I wanted to talk to everybody about is, I feel like I'm always projecting my ideas on what we want to do, and that's why at this last part, I want your guys' vision. It seems like I'm always projecting my vision, and I want it to be our vision for the members of our community. And so that's like, here's last year, some of the stuff that we came up with. And you put it up there. You remember it used to hang in the office all the time, and then I thought we were going to get it all printed out and put it on our big plotter, and I found that the plotter doesn't work. But anyway, kind of looking at some of the stuff that we talked about we want to see last year and where we're at. I think we made some headway, some progress on some of these things. Have our goals changed? Has our vision changed? And that's what I wanted to write down, like today, to find out, what does council expect to see, or what are some of your visions that you want for your city? What are you hearing from people that live in your community? Streets are obviously, that's all of our concern, and that's one of the issues that we hope to be addressing this next year. And a lot of our conversation that takes place today. You've kind of given a brief overview of what the city's looking at, what staff's looking at, as we start moving forward and preparing next year's budget and doing a 5-year forecast.
Well, I think, again, we got to get back to what prioritizing the need for what streets need to be fixed or not. So the direction Lance is going, I think, is something that needs to be supported so that we can have a plan to present to the citizens, whether we do it as a council or we go to them for looking for funding. And I think that has to be a priority.
So talk about the road study.
Yeah, the road study.
Road study / street.
The building inspector discussion discussed, how hard it is to find somebody right now. Seattle is the fastest growing city in the U.S. by far. The money is starting to go into real estate further and further from downtown again, so I think we really do need to get our comp plan updates up to speed and our development regulations and engineering standards up to speed before the money gets this far south again, because we saw the problems that happened last time.
Right. So one of the things...
talking as far as Tukwila already for the hockey stadium.
Don't we have land available for that?
They've got a beautiful thing for it. How long is it?
So, comp plan and
development standards.
there we go. Because, and that's one of the things that Jack and I have a lot of conversation about, because these roads are going to be completed here pretty soon, and people are already looking at it. And what kind of business? What do we want to attract to our city that's going to increase our revenue base?
Well, there's that, and the hot lanes are going to be done within about a year and a half now, right?
Yeah, they're only doing one side though, right?
Yeah, but still.
But you're
a
right.
Significant capacity increase, especially for the people who don't mind spending a little extra to go faster.
So, and along with that too, is I'm continuing working with the city of Sumner regarding our manufacturing and industrial center. I really believe that's going to help us as far as, again, that brings us revenue for streets, that gives us grant opportunities for streets.
Especially with upgrades of Valentine and Stewart. Egress and regress out of that area.
We're this close to meeting the employee threshold. We develop those areas, we're in.
Well, I think part of that is developing a plan to entice businesses.
And that's what Jack and I have been, and it comes back to this development strategies and some of the conversations Jack and I have been having as far as how do we reach out.
I can't remember his title now. The guy from Auburn, their development manager, has offered to help and come up with a plan. And I think we've got a great opportunity along Ellington and a great opportunity. Right now we've got these pot shops sitting there taking up what's going to be prime real estate.
Well, a lot of those, you're right, a lot of those businesses, as they sit, not just what's in the business building, but the building itself, are inadequate for future development. So for the property's prime. So you can see a lot of that property being bought up for new future investment.
So is the next part of your plan, that I had mentioned it, but I want to put what you want on here.
No, I think the next is just like with the Stewart development and the Valentine development, and Ness, you and I both worked on them, and it's kind of stagnated, but we also have to bring it up to date.
Sumner is staying on top of it, and luckily Mayor Enslow and I have been continuing our conversation, and he knows that we're still very much engaged.
Smaller issue, but it came up. Maintenance of the existing section of the interurban. I don't think I've told everybody on council this, but when we first did that Ellington Road rebuild up there, and we at the last minute installed non-compliant bollards that have caused at least 3 injury accidents since we installed them. They violated standards when we installed them. We didn't have permission from the county or PSC to put them in on their trail. But it's been 8 years now. We should get around to removing them. We should try to bring it up to at least comply with the standards that applied back in '76 when it was built.
So, maintenance existing trail, do you want me to add bollards to that? I know Lance has been very well informed.
Yeah, don't know if we need to specifically put that on there, but that's,
Well, and Tren and I can attest to it. It was very embarrassing when we rode in the Gator the night of the 100-mile run with the Marines. We rode in the Gator on our trail all the way to Auburn. Pacific is horrid. You get to Algona and Auburn and a very nice way down.
Yeah.
I mean, it was embarrassing.
they had interlocal agreements with King County that let them do local maintenance on the trail, while King County's agreement was still in place, and Auburn still does it anyway. Actually, so does Algona. They just removed a set of bollards that had gone bad, 2 months ago. Took 2 days to do.
It's embarrassing.
Algona's is much nicer than Auburn's even.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had the section that got rebuilt much more thoroughly. They had a full repave on it a while back.
The other thing I think on the list would be the intents purposes, City Hall Park, or what do you want to call it? You know?
Centennial Park or?
No, I'm talking about City Hall
okay.
complex, or
The
complex.
So you guys are in agreement?
Well, I think it's something, we kind of scratched on it a little bit several years ago, you know, when Rich was
And we
mayor.
cannot find those plans.
That's frustrating.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
And we cannot find them.
They
Because,
probably went in a particular dump.
because, you know, my envision is a whole, from here down to the last piece of our property across from the police department.
Right.
And a complete development. You know, short term, it includes this building. Long term, I don't see it.
Right.
So the minimal amount of money we need to maintain utilization of this building until we see an envision of the future. That's what we need to do, but I think the development is the first phase. You know, if we have a development, just like any other, you know, plan for improvements, if you don't have it, you don't know where to go,
Right.
how much it's gonna cost.
We can't get funding if we don't have a plan.
Site plan.
So,
So,
And I
and you're
think-
right, because that includes the police and fire.
Yeah.
Now, we think fire is gonna move out of there. I mean, that's in their plan to move out of there. You know, that police station is, I mean, that whole building is bad. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just like that.
because I think what we need to do, if we're gonna project ourselves into the future, and that includes what we, vision of Valentine, Stewart Road, development of Ellingson, is we need to project ourselves as a modern city, not a little school building converted city. We need to show people that want to invest in the city, that's people living here and businesses coming here, that we are a modern, moving forward city, not, you know.
So, well, I
And-
guess that's not a good time for this conversation, because I'm hearing a different conversation from people I talk to in the community. But that's not for now. But, I mean, that goes under here, and that's where we develop all that.
But like it's been mentioned, you know, I came here because, well, I spent my house on a brand new one, and I pushed myself completely to the limit. Why? Because, well, one was location of my work.
Sure.
Schools, and then, what I believe was an attempt of the city to do some development. So I didn't interact with the city, even though I lived here until, you know, later on. But the point was, is that I came here not to move to another area.
Right.
But what I found is, in the 22 years I've been here, my property's worth less than it is in the last decade. You know, everybody else is improving. Costs or values are going up.
Well,
you know.
according to the county assessor, it's moving this way,
But you know what I mean?
You're right, yeah.
You know, and why? What is it that about us that makes us different than up the hill? You know, my house is bigger than their houses. My property is bigger than theirs.
So you think all this would be revealed?
I think it's a combination of everything. What are we projecting ourselves, or what are we providing for our community? We don't have businesses that the community can utilize. You know?
If I may, I think you're kind of saying we need to establish a city image. What do we want our image to be?
Where do we want to go?
Yeah.
We don't have that. We're not projecting where do we see, as a leadership, the city being? You know, I see this city with what we finally are developing, or potentially developing on a couple roads, a future. But I think we need.
So do we want to, as a whole, and that's kind of like the whole point of getting this is, you know, have a conversation later on that. What is our city image? That's what we want to do, is develop a city image or a city vision.
Vision, a goal.
Okay.
You know.
And that's kind of part of why we have a retreat.
Because otherwise, you know, if we don't project a goal, what's the goal then? The goal is to stay Hoboken. If it's Hoboken, then okay, forget it. Leave the roads the way they are.
Yeah.
You know, forget it. We'll stay in the old school. You know, if people want to live in an environment where they like to have their yards look like, you know, a junkyard, you know what I'm trying to say? You know, you gotta.
Well, really, that's what's supposed to be done when you do a comp plan, a complete comp plan. You're supposed to go clear out to the point of getting community input on what do people see the future of the city being and develop policies to support that.
And we haven't done that in a while, and that's one of the challenges
It's been quite a while.
that Jack has been facing, just getting our current one up.
Yeah, because having been on planning commission, that's something we're supposed to refer back to that thing. You're not supposed to just put it in a binder somewhere.
Supposed to be.
Well,
You're right, John. I mean, you're exactly right, and that's kind of what the point I was trying to make. It's like, I don't always project my vision. I want our vision.
Well, a couple of us have been on the city planning commission know that a lot of the unfortunates is what are the people bringing to that planning commission? You know, 3 hours. If that's all they're putting into the planning commission, that's all you're going to get out of it. You know, if they're just, you've got to be comprehensive. You've got to look at what we're really talking about. You just can't commit just a half an evening, you know, a month, and think you're going to go anywhere.
We should also separately have some systematic way of refreshing all of us on what our adopted goals and policies are.
On like
the comp plan and everything else, some sort of regular refresher from. We have I think we still have an adopted policy that we're going to derive half the city's revenue from business taxes and not property and sales tax.
On city's goals and policies?
Yeah. Now, what concrete steps have we taken in the past 6 years to bring in larger businesses? We're finally getting the roads down there and that, but we're not actively marketing the city as a location for retailers or.
We're not a destination location for.
Right.
Well, I mean, look at all the traffic that flows through this city.
Yeah.
Right there on 8th or Stewart.
Well, just coming out of Ellington.
Or Ellington, right.
Ellington, Pacific, 3rd, Butte, trying to drive through this damn city, you know, and what are we getting out of it? Wear and tear on the roads, there's no tax generated from them, and they're not stopping to buy anything in between, you know.
No, you're right.
What
do we want to attract? What do you think? I mean, and that's some of the ideas that we want to look at, or, you know, when we're out there trying to figure out who we want to bring to our city, what do you want to see in the city? I would love to pay Fred Meyer's
as far
tax
as
money here.
Tax revenue generated, I think we should look at being creative, like go, no go, you know. I mean, you don't live here.
You don't live here, you pay
for the damn city. You got to pay a $20 monthly charge, and we're going to tag you. You know what I'm saying? I mean, think about it. Think outside the box. Be a little creative. They're going to do it on the freeway, and what do they know? They're going to up the freeway, and they're going to jam up and wear and tear on our roads.
You live here, you get a pass. You won't be charged.
But you know, let's think outside. What is the option? What can you do?
Good grocery store at the intersection down there so they can shop on the way home before they get up to top.
Exactly. That's nice.
So,
or a nice restaurant destination.
One more thing I think we want to continue to focus on is creating economies of scale for services we provide by consolidating services with other municipalities.
Okay. Abbreviated version.
So just consortium
creating
style
economies of scale, or
creating consortium style services.
Okay. Oh, I can't write.
partnering with neighbor cities.
You need a spell checker on that one.
Yes, I do. Can you read it? Can you tell it that it's misspelled?
Sorry, you kind of waved the pen.
Tricks of the trade, right? No?
I think,
What else? We got just a few more minutes. I'm trying to be very respectful of your guys' time to come in here, but I also want us to not be a waste of time either. If you got more ideas.
It's on our public works and our community development, but we need to make sure that we're staying abreast of our requirements, like,
Make compliance on that.
Compliance with our grants. That's where we're in trouble right now.
Grants, but also compliance with
Right.
eco.
Yeah, NPDE.
Water,
avoid the
drainage,
$10,000 a day
sewer
fine.
stormwater. Yeah.
So,
The infrastructure
right.
related.
So,
Unfunded mandate compliance.
that's exactly where
Yeah,
we're
true.
really in trouble.
I'm gonna hurry and get my hand up.
Unfunded
15 seconds.
mandate. I should have got one of those, like, Sharpies. They're so thick. But it's easier to read that way. What's that?
So, I know it's on the other list, but when I was out sick, one of the things that my husband did to get me out of the house was brought me over here with the dog, and we took her off leash, and he threw the ball, and I got to watch her run back and forth. We still don't have a dog park, and I don't even know where we're supposed to really go to throw the ball for the dog. So, we can't do it in our yard.
Everybody does that on the trail by my house.
Oh, okay. I mean, we didn't worry about her chasing the geese or the ducks, because she
So
didn't have
I
time
will
for
put
the
it
dog.
back on the list.
Dog park.
Figure out, and then, did you put it on the list last time?
Yes.
So what I think you should do is be tasked with figuring out how to fund it.
Don't we have any like vacant lots
We have a lot of
or talk to
parks.
the park board?
We have a lot of parks that are just empty spaces.
So there's a wide grassy swath actually literally alongside the trail, right by the Hatch property. And part of the Hatch property is going to be dug out for wetlands, but I don't know all of it.
I don't know, we have to look into that. We could bring it up with, Lance, or not Lance, but Jack, because we're going after the funding for that.
But is that something else that the park board?
Kate Hull's peas would be all over it. But that's just the thing, is finding the funding. I knew that we looked at this property over here in the past with wetlands that wasn't feasible, and then the other part that always came up, I'm not saying it's an issue right now, but it always comes up, who's going to maintain it, who's going to keep it clean, and all of that,
So it has to be self-sustaining.
Well, no, I'm not saying that, I'm just saying that's a conversation that has come up.
But do we want to add to the city?
So someone's got to clean up all the poo, because we know not everybody
Well,
cleans
usually
up
dog
after their
owners
pets.
use parks.
That sounds like an excellent community service for
That's a deterrent.
Or city, or
30 hours cleaning dogs.
Amy was telling me about, Lakewood that has a park that's cared for, the dog park is cared for totally by citizens. Citizen group, actually.
Rogner Park put in a dog facility. They got a fenced-in facility for you to bring your dogs in, take them off leash and throw them off.
Right.
Or, what you can do over here, short term, just develop, city puts up the aerial chain link.
But they got a garbage can right
Yeah.
close by, and they got the little dog
Little
scooper
bags
bag,
too.
so that you can clean up after your dog, put it right in the garbage can. But that's something that's already empty once or twice a week, so.
So we can continue these conversations on the dog park and continue talking to the park board and, and bringing things to Lance and Jack to look at. They love it. What else? I know.
The after lunch thing.
I've got hard stuff to do, I gotta be somewhere at 2:30.
Okay, well, and I think we're really close, so.
I think we just need to keep working on the things we've been working on.
Well, and I think what's really good about seeing this up here, like you said, is we have started working on these things. It took getting some staff in place.
I mean, you look at the review of the municipal code, I mean, we're not getting it all done, but we're getting some of it done, and I think the governance committee has, you know, helped, and staff has really done, you know, the biggest part of it, and it's gonna continue to move forward, so.
I think, I was gonna say, one thing that's not on the list, but it's something we're involved in, and that's the modernization of our internal communications, our microphone systems, our storage.
Modernization of IT, or do we want to say IT?
I mean, it's stuff that's in place. I mean, we got, you know, modernizing the city utilities and stuff. I mean, we've done the work, now it's just, and we've got agreement on it, and we've got the funds in place, it's just picking the system we're gonna use and moving forward with it.
And that's what we're.
So, do we want to, I mean, going off of what you just said, the modernization of, I want to say city hall amenities, or just go with IT for now?
Technology infrastructure, I think you could, like the sound system here, it will come this summer.
Yeah, whatever.
Maybe sooner, maybe late spring.
With that attitude, you don't get it.
I'll fight for 2 years.
You're gonna have 9 of these, you're not gonna.
Well, you can leave it open.
That's my plan.
You got your modernization, tech infrastructure,
Infrastructure.
includes, our
Tech infrastructure.
speaker systems, websites,
Right.
utilities, information collection, you know, so that they can pick up their water utility bills. They don't want to, when we have a failure on a pump. To me, that's all technical infrastructure, you know, improvements.
The city is almost to the point to be able to do this. They're getting, you know, enough of a level setting now. Every year, along with doing the budget, we should be doing a 4 or 5 year financial plans.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
So, and that's what I think is in our goal, is that 5-year budget forecast.
And then you just update it every year.
Yeah. And that's what we said 5, you said 4 or 5. We said
4 or 5.
5.
That's the standard.
5 is nice because it gets you beyond everybody's current term of office. However long you're in, you're planning beyond the end of your current term, even if you're newly elected.
Right. Yeah.
I think the other thing that we need to do to keep an eye on these is these should all be assigned to committees with an actionable date. So for like dog park should be park board, and I want to report on it in 6 months. Where are we at? And if the answer is we don't need funding for it, we've gone to these things, that's fine, but we need to, because all of this we lose sight of unless it's on an agenda.
We have citizen communication with our newsletter.
So, I mean, how many of those we actually check off? Maybe 3, 2? So, I think we need to assign all of these. And if they don't fit somewhere, stick them on Stacy's government committee.
No.
Okay. So, are you suggesting we do that now, or are you
No.
suggesting?
Well, I mean, you guys can, but I go at least. I mean,
Right.
like 5.
Well, and I think maybe what we could do is, and what like I said, I'd hope to have that in a nice, neat thing hanging in the office, but what I'd like to see is like a nice, neat, typed, long thing for all of the public to see that these are things that council is aware of and working on, you know, like this is 2014, this is 2015.
But he's right, I think there should be a,
But assigned to committees, you're right.
assigned committee.
And I think they all fall into a
Yeah.
committee. I mean, you can look at it and say, I know where almost all these go.
Right.
The ones I don't want to talk about.
Go to somebody else's committee.
I think one way we can do that is most businesses, you know, if you go to a business school or you get a business degree, they talk about business strategy or forecasting for the future. And maybe the best way to do this, instead of a 5-year budget forecast, maybe a 5-year strategic plan.
Yeah, the financial management plan is part of the strategic plan, right?
Right.
So if we have a strategic plan for where we want the city to be moving forward, there's the document that you're talking about.
So so the strategic plan would include the comp plan, the transportation plan, the finance plan.
Everything on these
Everything.
lists.
Right, all of that. And,
Every year we
But
come together, we
take the
just
vision
add
from
to
that.
and subtract from.
But it's not that binder. it needs to be, it needs to be a couple
Bullet
pages
points.
that say, that we can, from the website, say these are the focus, areas of focus. Here's the other documents, like here's the transportation plan that hits these things.
Right.
But if you make it a 300-page document, nobody's gonna read
If
it.
you
Strategic
actually
plan
want to
isn't.
transform an organization, you need to be able to fit it on a 3x5 card and say it in the length of time it takes to go 2 floors on an elevator.
Elevator seats.
Anything longer than that will not get accomplished.
No. No. Okay, anything else you like? Nothing? I'm sure, it's 2 o'clock, it's 2:10 almost. Thank you guys very much for coming in, I appreciate it. Anything else that you think of or whatever that you want to add, just give me a call, shoot me an email, call Richard, Amy, shoot an email.
Well,
But
thanks, I'm glad I
this is
came.
a really good start, and I
Yeah.
think it was very informational today.
Yeah.
A little late, but I'm glad I came.
You missed all the fun part.
No, he got the
Some of it, he got some.
But, yes. And I hope you guys found that useful, bringing Ann McFarland in.
I've always enjoyed her work.
She's really good. I like her.
It makes something a really boring subject entertaining, and you can kind of
Well, it
entertain
really-
some of it. Thank you guys very much. Appreciate it.
Guilt-free points of order. She's empowering, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, Jean, dog park.
Okay.